In June of 1964, DC published a comic about composite Superman, which is what happens when you cut Batman and Superman right down the middle and then stitch them back together again. The character is horrifying to look at, and here's the brief rundown. Joseph Meach is just your average everyday diver who struggled with his act because he lived in Metropolis. He tried to dive in a big water tank and almost drowned, so Superman saved the day and gave him a job at the Superman Museum, where he went a little crazy. Blaming Superman for saving his life and giving him a job and, a purpose and all that, Joseph ended up being struck by lightning while tending to one of the Legion of Superhero displays, and accidentally got all of their superhero power. These powers include size changing, shape changing, 12th level intelligence, magnet powers. He could walk through walls, disappear, and fly. He was much more unique than the other guy.
Danny Phantom is kind of a superhero, so this is tangentially related. But remember when Butch Hartman, the creator of it, tried to gaslight everybody into believing that Danny wasn't fighting ghosts but the monsters from another dimension? That was absolutely wacky. That was hilarious.
Unfortunately, with his new wide array of superpowers, not a single one of them was fashion sense, so he ended up making a costume by cutting the Batman costume and a Superman costume in half and stitching them together. Personally, I feel like having only half of Batman's cowl would make it more difficult to wear, but hey, maybe he shapeshifted his head and he just looks like that, I don't know. This composite Superman showed up in his original 1964 appearance, as well as an episode of Justice League Unlimited, an unlockable costume in LEGO Batman 3, and he was also the inspiration for the robot chicken character Composite Santa.
Composite Santa Claus, who looks like one half Santa and one half Frosty the Snowman.
What are Composite Santa's powers?
I don't know, but he freaks me right the out.
Now we skipped through the decades to 1996. This is the year that Beast Wars came out. This is 1996. In a few spare ads in Marvel Comics, we get this little brain teaser courtesy of Combo Snack Foods. Combo Man, can you spot all 14 superheroes that have been merged into this horrible affront to fashion? It's like Sophie and Igard's insane wedding cake, where each layer is a different flavor and it's going to collapse under its own hubris. Combo Man lives outside of God's light and consequently outside of his love. But here we go, let's name the layers of this double 7-layer bean dip. The Hulk. Naturally, when we think super strength, it's all in your hairline. Combo Man inherits his Hulk strength through his follicles in like a reverse biblical Samson event, or maybe it actually is a reference to Samson with the idea that if you remove his hair, he becomes powerless, or maybe it's just a silly ad campaign.
Combos, a crispy nugget outside, inside a creamy, rich, melt-in-your-mouth filling made with real cheese. So inside you,
it's real good food.
Cheese-filled combos. Combos really cheeses your hunger away.
Cyclops. No complaints on this one. This makes sense. If you're going to have the eyes of any Marvel superhero, it should probably be Cyclops. Fun fact, did you know Cyclops doesn't have laser vision? Instead, his eyes are portals to another more concussive dimension. And these ocular dimensional portals are blocked by the red lenses of the visor or sunglasses he wears. Iron Man. Using the Iron Man armor to specifically cover only about half of your face and neck is certainly a choice. Iron Man's wrist blasters and ability of flight certainly sound useful, and his power source being that arc reactor on his chest sure would be cool to have, power the rest of the outfit and all that, but nah. Definitely the best part of Iron Man you should keep is his mask that covers his mouth. Hey, here's a question. How does Combo Man eat his delicious combo snacks when his mouth is covered? If he tries to lift his mask like Iron Man does, wouldn't that just make the Cyclops glasses come off too? And then he shoots everything with concussive eye blasts? This is an amazing design. Magneto. Magneto is known for having magnetic powers, able to rip the iron out of a man's pores, able to affect the rotation of the Earth's magnetic poles, and generally being one of the top mutants in the X-Men universe. But forget all of that, his real power is having a big cape.
But here is the problem. I don't think that Magneto is good representation for Jewish people. He's a psychopath, he's crazy, he wants to kill all humans. So here's a character that is worthy of replacing Magneto in the comics, TV shows, and movies. Ninjew. That's it. Just Ninjew.
Ninjew's over and alive.
He's part of God's gang, which is a team of people with different ethnic and religious backgrounds using martial arts and abilities inspired by their own religion. They have Christianity, they have Islam, they have Hinduism, and of course, Judaism. And they all unite in order to defeat evil forces. Like, for example, mad scientists, which is kind of fitting because, science would be the enemy of religion. And there's also business people, but they're secretly demons. Because, I guess, big business and the devil. Christianity and all of those religions, I guess, don't like them. And who could forget the most iconic rival of religion? Reptilians. This is kinda where it loses me, because you can't have a Jewish guy on your team but also have an anti-Semitic based conspiracy theory as one of your main villains. Those just don't work together unless there is a plot twist somewhere in the series where it turns out Ninjew was a reptilian all along, in which case it would still be absolutely unhinged, but at least it would be consistent. And the last enemies that we know of are the TTT, which are a yesified version of the KKK, which is absolutely hilarious. If there is a superhero or a superhero team and a rogues gallery that needs a live-action big-budget adaptation, set into MCU perhaps, is this. I mean, come on, his name is Ninjew. He is a ninja that is Jewish. He doesn't throw ninja stars, he throws stars of David. This is the best thing ever conceived in the history of humanity.
The Punisher.
I don't know anything.
Does the Punisher really even have powers, or does he just use guns? Yeah, either way, he has some powerful pecs, apparently. Captain America. Captain America's super soldier serum in his body gives him super strength, high durability, faster than normal healing factor, but as a consequence, it makes it harder for him to consume alcohol. Because the powers are, in the blood, it doesn't really matter which part of his body is Captain America, but putting it right front and center like this is pretty cool. Sabretooth. Sabretooth is like the Joker to Wolverine's Batman. Sabretooth has healing factor and strong claws, so naturally, the part that Combo Man gets is his most deadly body part. His tummy and the parts of his arms above the elbows below the upper arm. Does that make sense? If you asked Wolverine what Sabretooth's most dangerous body part is, I think he would tell you it's the part of the arm above the elbow but below the upper arm. Carnage. Combo Man's elbows are controlled by the Carnage symbiote. The Carnage symbiote is usually controlling the serial killer Cletus Cassidy and makes him one of Spider-Man's greatest foes. The symbiote has shape-shifting powers and can be used to duplicate web slinging. In this way, I think Combo Man can use powerful elbow attacks. Daredevil. Daredevil's powers include being a lawyer, being blind. Oh, I get it! Because Justice is blind! That's funny! And having echolocation. Everyone knows echolocation is all in the wrist. Spider-Man. Having Spider-Man hands makes sense. It's good for web slinging and wall crawling. Combo Man isn't seen changing the web fluid cartridges in his one comic, which we will get to later. So I think maybe he's like the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. Maybe Combo Man just has the web fluid built into his body. Maybe he produces it in his wrists. I don't know. Sentry. Ah, yes. Sentry. Everyone's favorite superhero. I don't know anything about Sentry, so I'm gonna let Cracktoon handle this one.
The funny thing about Century is that when you look at Combo Man, or at least his outfit, he's basically the combination of multiple Marvel characters. But Century himself, according to his backstory, is an amalgam of 100 of the strongest people of his race, meaning that Combo Man is a combo of a combo squared, if you will. Century debuted in the comics at roughly the same period of time when Iron Man the Animated Series started, which he was in from the start, meaning that he was probably made with the intention of being part of both comics and TV show. So no matter where he officially debuted first, which I think is probably the comic book, his source material, quote unquote, should probably be still both. And as a person who watched the show, I have to say that Century, drum rolls please, sucks. From episode 1, we aren't really given an explanation of who he is or his powers outside of some vague indication, meaning that he will start using unexplained and unestablished powers depending on what the plot needs, making him annoying as a character and showing how lazy the writers were. For example, in episode 1, the Mandarin works at this plan to turn some people into invincible zombies. You're like, whoa, invincible zombies, that's crazy. But not only does Iron Man kind of just defeats them in a very confusing way, I don't even know to this day how he really did it, but it turns out that Century could have solved the problem this whole time, and he magically just turns these zombies back into humans right before the episode ends. Now, may I remind you that at no point are we shown that he discovered they were humans, or was foreshadowed that he can even do this, even though he was fighting these zombies like the whole episode, right? So it literally comes out of nowhere just so the episode ends on a happy note. And all of this just makes the Mandarin look like a total idiot because he planned and schemed for a year just so his plan gets absolutely dumpstered in like a second by Century. Meaning that either the Mandarin didn't know he could do stuff like this, which basically would mean that even in universe this is an asspull, or that in the plan he schemed for a year he didn't consider Century at all. Either way, it makes the Mandarin look stupid, the writers look stupid, this whole show is stupid, and everything about this show and Century sucks. Though, if you were to power scale him, his powers are many, at least in the show. He has a lot of unexplained powers, magical powers, space-time, teleportation, whatever. So in that regard, at least he is very strong, or at least has many abilities.
Human Torch. Yes, Human Torch's knees. Human Torch has the ability to light his entire body on fire, but in the case of Combo Man, there doesn't seem to be an off switch on these. Imagine if he's at the laundromat and he drops a quarter and he kneels down to grab it and he accidentally burns the laundromat down. I'm talking like a lot of shit here, but honestly, this and the Carnage elbows make the character really pop on the panels. It's a really cool design aspect, and I think more characters should have flaming knees.
Speaking of Fantastic Four, you know who has a blue suit and elastic powers? Exactly. Bouncing Boy from DC Comics. He's part of the Legion of Superheroes, which is kind of like the Justice League in the future, but also I'm pretty sure they're all teens. So think of Teen Titans and Justice League combined, but 1,000 years into the future. You see, I like Elastic Boy because of how absurd his origin story is. He was at a bar and drank some soda, which transformed him into an elastic ball. Yeah, that is it. That is his origin story. What is even more hilarious is that everyone in the comic agrees that he sucks, that his power is bad. And the only reason they even keep him around is that he can be helpful when it comes to electricity-based supervillains. The most absurd part of these comics is not even him, and I think that's what's fascinating, because the Legion of Superheroes has this villain called the Time Trapper, which is this entity that exists at the end of time that has complete control over time, causality, and all things related. But somehow he still manages to lose to a bunch of superpowered teenagers every single time. And it's especially funny when you think about the fact that he loses to a team that has someone like Bouncing Boy on it. His superpower is literally just being a big ball.
Silver Surfer. The Silver Surfer is the herald of Galactus, a cosmic being with a silver surfboard and wielder of the power cosmic. So naturally that power is kept in the lower legs. God, I fucking love Combo Man. It's so stupid. Gambit. Gambit is an X-Men from Louisiana, notable for his French accent and his ability to throw exploding playing cards at things. Now you might be thinking, why would that power show up in his feet? What you might not know is Gambit is actually the one Marvel character with the sexiest, chubbiest little toes. Really perfect specimens. It's hard to beat those toesies.
Speaking of delicious toes. Oh, why did I say that? Brian, you freak! You freak! Stop it! Stop it! But anyway, speaking of them feet. No, that's not what I... No, that's not the... No. Speaking of sexualization is what I meant. I present to you Stan Lee's Stripperella. The concept of Stripperella is just funny. It's basically Stan Lee is a horny old man, so he creates this female superhero with stripper-based gadgets and abilities. Now, some people might say it's in poor taste. Some people might try to cancel it on Twitter, which sometimes is a thing. People, you know, like how every month or so people try to cancel Eminem? I think it's important that shows like this exist, and it's kind of sad that they don't anymore. Just these out there projects, out there full high budget animated series that only get one season because they're a failure, but have a cool concept behind them.
You mean a condom? I could get one. Why, do you want to...
I meant an impenetrable crotch protector because I'm about to kick you in the groin. Very hard.
It's unapologetically late 90s, early 2000s, and I love it for that. It's a byproduct of its time, and we should stop trying to make only the safest, most boring shows and premises ever. I want something like this. I love that this exists, and I love that Aeon Flux exists. I love the Maxx exists. At a first glance, the Maxx might look like a silly superhero from Marvel of DC, but he isn't. What he is really is a bum. A bum old man living in a cardboard box in an alleyway with no superpowers and a lot of mental problems. He thinks he's a superhero, so he goes around beating criminals. But sometimes he even beats normal people in his insane delusions. He does have this social worker called Julie, who always tries to break him out of prison and put him on the straight path in life. But she herself has her own problems with her body image, with her trauma, and with just being a woman in a dangerous city. In a way, you could say that her problems created the Maxx. As his biggest delusion, it's him in this alternate universe he calls the Outback, where his whole mission is to protect the Leopard Queen. A version of Julie that his mind has created, so you could say that this insanity in his mind of being a superhero is a byproduct of him wanting to protect Julie. The insanity of the story is that at some point you just can't tell what's real and what's not anymore. Maybe the Outback is the real world, and the quote-unquote real world we see in the series is the schizophrenia in Max's mind. Maybe the alternate reality and everything in it is actually real, and maybe Julie's the crazy one for not believing Maxx. Or maybe Sarah, who I haven't even mentioned yet, made all of this show inside her head as a coping mechanism for her problems with her father. And then there's Mr. Gone, the villain of the series, who is this psychopath serial killer, serial rapist, who has this insanely hilarious dynamic with the Maxx, and they have this insanely funny fight scene.
Or this charming young chippy is added to my score. You killed my hostage. You killed my hostage. You killed my hostage!
Probably the thing I like about the Maxx the most is that he's supposed to be resembling a rabbit, kinda, but he just looks like a purple gorilla. He looks like a big purple gorilla. And he's probably about as strong as a gorilla. But how strong is a gorilla?
Colonel. Trying to sneak around the gorillas, but I'm dummy thick. Clapping my ass cheeks keeps alerting them. How strong are gorillas?
A gorilla is really strong.
One time I went to see a gorilla, and it was much larger than I remember them being.
A gorilla is very big.
One time I went to say hi to the gorilla at the Cincinnati Zoo by using my gun, and it did not end well, let me tell you that right now.
A gorilla can turn into a robot in the 1990s children anime Beast Wars, or purple, like in the anime Grape Ape Magilla Gorilla.
A gorilla is in those shows.
In Planet of the Apes, a gorilla shows up in many roles, all at the same time.
Yeah, this is probably done through special effects, but if we look at nature documentaries, a gorilla can show up in multiple places at the same time as well.
Perhaps this is a power a gorilla has.
A gorilla has hands and feet like humans do.
That is accurate.
A gorilla is mostly herbivore, but sometimes eats ants.
A full-grown gorilla will eat 50 pounds a day, which is similar to a Brian. My dad looks like a gorilla, which leads me to believe that my dad looks like a gorilla.
A gorilla is a type of military group that protests.
A gorilla is not a gorilla.
Guerrilla warfare is something else.
A gorilla fighting a gorilla is not guerrilla warfare.
It is a travesty.
Gorilla, 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 gorilla. My dad beats me.
I love that all these superheroes here, those insane motherfuckers, I love the fact that they exist because we need more originality, more insanity in this world. Even if it's bad, I'd rather take something that is bad but it tries to do something than something that is mediocre because it's not trying to do anything special. All this to say that Stan Lee was a freak for real.